Hello, Chooms. Welcome back to Augmented Cardboard. Today we'll be talking a little bit about the layout for the Cyberpunk TCG, and this will kind of help people get a better understanding of how to play. I have a nice little graphic here of a general playmat, and we will go over kind of a setup. So, all decks are comprised of 40 to 50 cards, not counting your legend cards. You start the game with 3 legends. That is this zone here. Not the biggest zone, but you put your legends here face down. At the start of the game, you would draw 6 cards. A lot of people are used to 7 card starts, so that will be interesting to unlearn everything I have played in the past. And yeah, you would look at your hand. This game does allow all players to have one free mulligan. If they look at their hand and they decide it really just is not playable, you can shuffle all those cards back in and draw a brand new 6 and start again. From what I understand of the game, it probably makes a lot of sense to have some lower cost units and some sellable Eddie cards in your starting hand. That is what I will be looking for as I begin playing for the most part. It's important to note all of your 3 face down legends actually count as eddies down here in this zone, with the exception of some go solo legends that when you play them and they move up into your unit zone up here, you would actually lose an eddy and deramp yourself actually a little bit if you think about it. But it'll be interesting to see if there's maybe cards in the future that'll move your legend back to the legend zone so you can kind of surprise your opponent with a surprise resource or maybe even defend your legend from combat. Definitely something I hope we see. Anyways, this zone over here is your fixer zone. This is where your quote-unquote gig dice go at the start of the game, and you will slowly roll them once per turn. These dice here are actually the win condition for this game. At the start of your turn, if you have 6 of these dice, you win the game. Another way to win the game would be if your opponent decks out and draws all 40 or 50 of their cards. So it'll be interesting to see just how much decks draw. With there only being 6 gig dice and essentially 7 to 8 turns, I'm not really sure how you would quote unquote deck someone out, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Anyways, once per turn, you draw a card, roll a gig dice. When you roll your gig dice, it moves from this zone here all the way over to here. This is where your current gig dice and their values will remain face up. The sum of your dice's values is called street cred, and street cred has certain effects on certain cards. This zone here is where your deck is actually played, and this one beneath it is trash. If you've played Pokemon, perhaps, or Magic, you'll be familiar with these. Play deck, discard pile, pretty simple. This zone here would be your opponent's zone. They would be putting their gig dice here, and during your turn, you can attack their spent units, which is units they've already used or attacked with, or you could choose to attack your opponent directly. Those direct attacks will actually be how you steal these gig dice, and the game kind of creates a nice tug of war between you and your opponent, and that's kind of how the game is played roughly. We will have a much more in-depth view of this, obviously as time goes on and we play ourselves. This giant zone in the center here would be where your units are played. And then, as you can see, these little dotted line underboxes are how you attach gear or cyberware, this is a very nice playmat. This is the one they included in the beta boxes. So anybody with Netrunner and above, you actually will receive a playmat identical to this one you're looking at, which is super nice. It'll help people hit the ground running, learning how to play. This is them explaining essentially the same thing I've explained to you guys. We'll go over some card anatomy here. Actually, here's a nice little graphic as well. Hopefully you guys can see this here, but they're actually pointing out the different tags. So right here above my cursor is the type of card you're looking at. This spot right here will tell you if your card is a legend, a unit, a program, or a gear. These are the only types of cards we're aware of at this time, with the exception of maybe Quick Hack. I'm not sure if that's labeled up here or if that's just considered a program. I'd have to look into that again. Essentially, they've revealed that quick hacks and calling a legend are the only thing you can do on your opponent's turn. This would be how you, as a defending player, can interact with your opponent on their turn. Anyways, another section here would be this, RAM value, this little thing here. So far, all legends they've revealed only have ×2 RAM of their color. I'll be curious to see if there's abilities that like overclock and make legends have more RAM, or multicolor legends that provide RAM of 2 colors. They kind of have a lot of options here, and I think this RAM system will be extremely interesting for deck building as well as balance. So your strongest cards typically require 5 or 6 RAM. The only way you could use those is if you're a mono-colored deck, versus if you, say, run 2 green legends and 1 yellow legend. You will have access to a wider card pool, but not necessarily the strongest cards. Cost. This is important. This right here in the upper left corner will dictate how many eddies you need to play a card. Most cards have this. Pretty self-explanatory. If it costs 5, you need 5. Keep in mind that legends do count as eddies both face up and face down, unless they are in your unit zone. This little symbol here actually is a sell tag and dictates if cards can be sold as eddies. To my knowledge, only programs and gears can be sold as eddies, and you would reveal those. You would reveal a card with these symbols to your opponent, and once per turn, you could sell that to essentially gain a resource, or gain a land, if you will, if there's any Magic players here. Tags. That is these 2 little identifiers. There's not always 2, actually, but they're little identifiers in the bottom of your card. These tags kind of assign cards to a category, if you will. I know, for example, I think it's Yorinobu Arasaka says all Arasaka units gain +1 when they attack. That is actually your tag down here, giving you a buff, because Arasaka is a tag. So there'll probably be cards that say, all Corpos gain +2, all Mercs get blocker, for example. That's just roughly what that is. And last but not least, power. This is how combat is determined. Down here in the lower right-hand corner is a unit's power. Obviously, power can be buffed, probably even nerfed potentially. But yeah, this is how combat's determined. Big number good, small number bad. All interactions are treated as separate interactions. There's no stacking combat like in Magic, where you can attack with multiple things at once and make this 8 power a 2 power now. No. All combat is treated as a separate interaction. So if you swing a 7 at this 8, you lose. This remains on the field as an 8. just for reference. And that's basically roughly our card types and our zones. I appreciate you guys for watching this video, a little bit of a shorter one today. And I look forward to checking back in with you guys in the future. Bye.